Let us now talk about some of the best practices for getting high search result rankings. It is important to keep in mind that Google's search algorithm is not a fixed algorithm and it keeps on changing with time. So, if you're interested in optimizing the appearance of your search pages of your website on the search pages, make sure that you are aware of the changes in the algorithms of Google that are taking place constantly. Now, I'm going to talk about a couple of these changes that had far-reaching implications. One of these algorithm changes was titled as Panda Update. Okay, and this came a few years back, and it introduced a lot of new factors into how the PageRank algorithm was to be modified and how then it would affect the search result rankings. One, if there were a lot of ads shown on your web pages, then there would be a penalty for that, and your website would take your ranking would take a beating. Okay. Also, if the content that was there on your website, if it were original, then there is a lot of value for that. On the other hand, if the content on your website is actually duplicated from some other source on the internet, then that's a problem. Now, of course, this creates this kind of a situation that arises here is that your website may be the original website that put in some content, and somebody else copied that content from you and put it on their website, right? So now your webmaster must be proactive and must look out for other websites that may be actually copying the content and pasting it on their site, so to say. While this may be fine, it is not fine unless the website that has copied your content links back to your site, acknowledging that you are kind of the original content creator, right? And by this, I do not mean that they have to explicitly acknowledge that, but as long as they duplicate the content and make a link to your site, it is an implicit acknowledgement that the content came from your site, right? So this is important to do. Also, the quality of content freshness, right? If the content is created new, then it is good because this says that the website content creators are active and are constantly creating new and relevant content. The quality of the language in terms of the grammar is also important. Okay. Other cues that Google looks at is, of course, things like whether people found the content relevant. And if a lot of people are hitting the back button after reaching your site and going back to the search result page, that is not a good thing, right? And finally, it is now no longer the fact that only the inbound links to your web pages are important. The outbound links from your website to other websites is also important, right? So the idea is that if your website is a high quality website with high quality content in it, it is very likely that you would point to other websites which are also high quality websites, right? On the other hand, if you are pointing to other websites that are not considered to be good quality sites, then maybe you are not a good site after all, right? So it's not only the inbound links that matter now, the outbound links also matter. Another update in the Google search algorithm is called the Google Hummingbird update, right? And again, this update had far-reaching implications because it said that an exact match of a user search query with the keyword on a page, that kind of an exact match becomes less important. And the purpose now of the algorithm is to create a match between the intent of the search and the theme of the page, right? So now the idea then moved from exact matching of words to a bigger emphasis on the intent. Okay, so how this works? This works in myriad different ways. but let me give you a couple of examples. Think about co-occurrence analysis. If the content on a page mentions the word shoe and mentions the word sale, and even though these words co-occur, they may not be adjacent to each other on the content, still the algorithm may be able to figure out that this is a page related to e-commerce, right? So if somebody is using a search query like buy shoes, then this page would be more relevant to such a search query. Okay, so this is about co-occurrence of two words in the content. Similarly, Google also looks at co-occurrence of two separate search queries, right? So for example, if the search query women's shoes co-occurs with the search query buy shoes online, then the search engine Google interprets that if one query is being used, let's say somebody is using the search query women's shoes, this particular query does not have the word buy in it, and therefore somebody may not be sure that there is a buy intent. But because the women's shoes search query co-occurs very often with the buy shoes online search query, it may be inferred that the women's shoes search query also has an intent of making a purchase, and therefore an e-commerce page might be considered very relevant to the search query of women's shoes. Now, some of the best practices are that you should always keep the links that you have already earned. So now imagine that you are selling Christmas gifts, and therefore your business has got a lot of seasonal element to it, right? And based on the gift items that you want to showcase in a particular year, you create a lot of new pages, right, every year. And of course, the pages that you have created may earn links over time. And then the Christmas season comes and goes. Now the next year comes. What do you do? Well, you would say that I would create again new content pages for the new gifts that I'm going to be keeping in stock this year, right? The problem with that idea is that the web pages that you had created in the past year already had earned some links. And now when you start afresh creating those new pages, you don't have any links. In fact, you are not able to ride on the hard work in earning links that you did last year. Therefore, it's a very good idea to keep the same page address, the same URL, and keep changing, keep updating the content on that year after year. And if you want to keep the content from the last year, it is better to take that content and archive it in a different URL, right? So that is why it is important to think about, when you think about this idea of earning links and then keeping them, leveraging them, that is when you think about these kinds of strategies, right? Now, another thing is to understand that if it's the seasonal business that you are in, right, then you have to understand that when does seasonality start to kick in, right? So this picture that you see on the slide, it shows that searches for the query, this Christmas gifts, this actually starts much in advance of December, right? In 2017, you can see that this search query started picking up around mid-October, right? So clearly now people are getting interested in searching for Christmas gifts, and therefore there might be content creators out there who might already start writing content around Christmas, right? And so if your own content is not available around this time when search queries and interest starts to pick up, then you may miss opportunities of earning links, right? And on the other hand, if your content, and it is possible that you may not have all the content out there about Christmas, 2 months in advance in October, but you can actually do a start, right? At least start, build anticipation, have some information out there, and because you might be the first ones of the websites out there with some content, you are actually likely to be more visible. Once it is December, then you might be competing with a lot of other websites, and it might be hard to gain visibility and links. So once again, you have to time your content creation based on when interest starts to pick up, especially if you are in a seasonal business, right? Another point to keep in mind is that people in different geographies use different kind of keywords to search for the same kind of topic. So, for example, there might be a location in the world where when people are thinking of vacations, they use the search query vacation, right? And so content that is created around the word vacation is very relevant for them, right? And it might be a good idea to create the content using this kind of a keyword, right? And other, websites from the similar part of the world are likely to find your content and link to your content. On the other hand, there might be another location where when people search for vacations, they actually use the word holidays, right? And so in that particular location, other content creators may also be using the word holidays more. So if your content also reflects this word, those other websites might find your content to be more relevant and might give you more links, right? So if your business is geographically dispersed, you should be sensitive to these differences and changes in search queries, and try to create content that might serve these different locations, how they search, and maybe differences in the interests of these different locations, right? And that is where tools like Google Trends comes in to be really useful and handy. Also, while creating the website content, remember that it is very important to avoid keyword conflicts. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, let us say that you create your website is about giving loans, let's say, and you discuss this content, right? Now, if you create multiple web pages which talks about education loans, right? Then it is very difficult for the search engine to determine that which is the primary page, which is the most important page when somebody is searching for education loans, right? So this is called keyword cannibalization, right? You should not create content targeting the same keyword on multiple pages, and this will help create clear mapping between specific keywords and the content pages that you have, right? Now, you may say that there might be situations where I may need to have multiple content pages around the same idea, right? So, for example, I may want to have information about loans, but then I may also want to have information about low interest loans. So both of those web pages will actually mention the word loan, right? So how do we come out of this situation? Well, the idea is that you have to maintain a hierarchy of information on your website. So create a page on loans, which is higher up in the website hierarchy. And then from that page, create child pages, right? Which are about, let us say, low interest loans, education loans, or other kinds of loans, right? And make sure that now the content, the page with the low interest loans, for example, now links back to the loan pages. The page on education loans also links back to the loan page. So that way, the search engine crawler would be able to determine that the loan page is the higher page on the website hierarchy. And when somebody is searching for loans in general, then this page might be considered more important than others, right? Because then the clarity of content and keyword can actually happen more easily in this case. Okay. Another thing to do is, and to realize is that, I was talking about backlink research and use of tools to do backlink research. It is useful to not do this backlink research as a one-shot thing, but it is rather important to track link patterns over time. Now, how does this help if we can track link patterns over time? Well, you can come across and observe many different situations, like the ones that are showcased in these different graphs out here. Look at the first picture. This picture shows that suddenly in the month of March, the website earned a lot of links. Okay, whereas in the rest of the months, it did not earn too many links. Now, this is not a good pattern to have. If your website is a great website which constantly create good quality content, then you should be earning links constantly, evenly across the entire year, right? So maybe if you got a lot of links suddenly in March, that may be because you ran some kind of a campaign. Remember the bulimia campaign that I was talking about? So maybe you did a one-off campaign and maybe the link earning was because of that, right? Or maybe you got a lot of mention in the news for some reason, and that is why suddenly you got a lot of links from news kind of sites, right? So if actually you see a pattern like that, you know that while it was good to have those links in March, right? You need to be more consistent in your approach so that you can continuously earn links, right? Now, this kind of analysis is only possible if you are doing link tracking over time and keeping that data, right? So that you can generate these kind of graphs, right? If you look at the next picture, this is the one that you want to have. It shows that a site is getting more popular over time and therefore is growing in reach and is earning more and more links as time goes on, right? So this is a good thing to have. The third one actually shows the link trends are inconsistent, meaning there seems to be some kind of a cycle out there, right? Now, this might be due to the nature of the business itself, or it could be due to the fact that there is some kind of what I was talking about, like some kind of strategies on content creation that you might be following, but on inconsistently, not on a regular basis, right? So if it is to do with the nature of the business, then perhaps you cannot do much about it. But if it is to do with inconsistent strategies of content creation, at least that's where you can bring in some consistency. Let's look at this one, which is number 4 on the slide. And this shows the blue bars show that the number of new content pages that are being created by the site. And the black bar shows the number of new links that are being earned every month. And you can see that there is a negative correlation. While over time, more and more new content is being created, the number of links that are being earned over time are gradually reducing. This clearly shows that the nature and the quality of content that is being created is not very appealing to people. So, either the content does not get visibility, which means that you should make sure and you should strive to get more visibility for your content. Or if you have already done that, then it means that you have to change the content that you are creating, right? And if you look at the last one, this shows that, the blue bars again shows the number of new pages, and over time you can see more and more content is being created, right? But you can see from the black bars that the number of links that you are getting is kind of even. It doesn't really change very much. And while, if the height of the black bars is reasonable, it means that you are still getting a reasonable number of links every month. But you should ask that why is it that when we are creating newer and newer content and this content is more and more, why are we not seeing a commensurate increase in the number of links that we can acquire? There are some other useful YouTube videos, which I have provided a link to here on the site. So on this slide, so you can go ahead and watch them in your time.